The chapter begins with Suho landing a fatal blow on Lee Min-sung. Lee starts coughing blood from his mouth, and his jaw is already broken from the fight. He tries to speak, but his broken jaw prevents him from forming words. As he struggles, Lee Min-sung thinks about how unfortunate it is to have his stomach pierced and not even be able to say his last words. He reflects on how his life spiraled after the cataclysm and recalls how he thought he had a chance to fix the broken world when Tieli appeared. Suddenly, he remembers Lim Taegyu and reflects on the past when Lim asked him to join his guild. He wonders why he is thinking about Lim Taegyu in his final moments. He tells himself not to be looked down upon because he is a superstar and questions why Suho is looking at him with pitiful eyes. At that moment, Suho receives a quest notice to eliminate Lee Min-sung, who is possessed by the Apostle of the Iterum, and to obtain his memories. Lee Min-sung dies, and Suho gains experience points and levels up. Asil praises Suho for successfully defeating the Apostle of the Iterum. However, Suho reflects for a moment and says that it might have been Lee Min-sung, not the Apostle, who laughed at the end. He adds that although he did not talk to Lee Min-sung much, Lee seemed like a man who followed his desires. From the side, Beru observes that this is the first time the young monarch has killed a person and assumes that Suho must be shocked. Suho then says that he has realized something from this experience and thanks Lee Min-sung. He explains that after becoming a player, he lived with the goal of finding his mother and becoming someone who could help her. But now looking back, he feels like he has been missing his own purpose. He concludes that this must be why Lee Min-sung called him an ambitious character without ego. Suddenly, Suho remembers his memories of fighting his father at the end of the tutorial. He recalls being impressed by his father's strength and wanting to become as strong as him. At the same time, he remembers feeling desperate to defeat his father. The loss frustrated him because his father felt too immense and unreachable, making Suho feel like he had to achieve his goals on his own. Asil comments that it is good to have huge ambitions, and Suho replies that he will make sure to become the strongest of all, stronger than the apostles of the Iterum, the monarchs, and even his father. He declares that this is the ego he has decided on. Beru remarks that it might be impossible to achieve such a goal, but says he will cheer Suho on. Asil also says that it would be too difficult to surpass Lord Jinu. Suho thanks them for their disheartening words with a hint of humor. Afterward, Suho begins checking his rewards and discovers that he has leveled up enough to change his class. He receives a request for a class change quest and learns that he can change his class once he reaches level 40. He opens his stats and sees that his empty class will finally be replaced. From a distance, Tao watches Suho and comments on how careless he is, thinking that the black mask has this much potential. As Suho remains preoccupied with his thoughts, Teal is impressed by Suho's strength and becomes more determined to bring him under his control. He brings out his scales of equivalent exchange, an ability that allows him to exchange what he has for something of equal value. Teal decides to use this ability to convert the lives of his believers into mana, as the mana of all his believers begins flowing toward him. Teal recalls this familiar sensation and becomes certain it is the same feeling he experienced before. With the accumulated mana, he conjures a star fragment, aims it at Suho, and launches it. Meanwhile, Beru prepares to search the memories of Lee Min-sung to gather any information about the Apostle of the Itarim. Suho, trusting Beru, leaves the task to him. However, out of nowhere, Suho is struck by the star fragment. Everyone around him is terrified, as Suho wonders where the attack came from. Tiel smiles as the star fragment hits Suho and begins trying to take control of him. Suho feels something invading his mind, and the system activates the longevity effect. This effect grants Suho immunity to all diseases, poisons, and abnormalities, while also exponentially increasing his regeneration abilities when he is sleeping. Despite this, the system notifies Suho that the dispelling effect has failed. The longevity effect confirms that the star fragment has the same properties as the mistburn infection, and begins attempting to dispel it, but it fails again. Due to the presence of the otherworldly substance, the system becomes unstable and fails repeatedly. Seeing this, Tile laughs and declares that the authority of the darkness is in his hands. However, he is shocked when the system successfully dispels the status effect and begins Suho's recovery. Esil rushes to Suho and asks if he is okay. Suho, relieved that the longevity effect has been activated, says that he needs to cover his wounds with shadows. Suddenly, he notices his HP dropping rapidly and realizes that he has no other choice but to accept the class change quest as his final resort to survive. A portal opens and the system informs him that only he can enter while the others must wait in the shadow dungeon. Esil starts crying as she watches Suho in this dire state. Suho steps into the portal and is teleported to a new location. When Suho Suho arrives, everything is dark and he cannot see anything. He wonders if he is dead, but becomes certain he is still alive when he feels his cheek. Suddenly, a flame ignites, illuminating the area. Suho finds himself in a dungeon, and to his surprise, all his wounds are healed. He looks around realizing that this is the beginning of his class change quest.